I found a VHS tape labeled "Do Not Watch." It shows me dying in real time. I found it while cleaning out my late grandfather's basement, tucked away in a dusty cardboard box alongside a stack of unlabeled home videos. The black tape stood out among the faded white labels of the others, the words "Do Not Watch" scrawled across its spine in harsh red marker. Naturally, my curiosity got the better of me. Grandpa had died 3 months ago, and I'd volunteered to help sort through his belongings before my parents sold his house. No one had been down here in years, certainly not Grandpa, whose arthritis had confined him to the first floor for the last decade of his life. I set the mysterious tape aside and continued sorting through boxes, finding mostly junk, old tax records, water-damaged books, and Christmas decorations that had gone out of style in the 70s. By the end of the day, I'd filled my car with bags for donation and trash, but that VHS tape sat on the passenger seat beside me as I drove home. My apartment still had the old TV/VCR combo that Grandpa had given me when I went to college. It sat mostly unused now, a dusty relic in the corner of my living room. I hadn't watched a VHS in years, but tonight I was grateful I'd never gotten around to throwing it out. I made dinner first, telling myself I wasn't procrastinating, just hungry after a day of manual labor. But the truth was, something about that tape made me uneasy. Why label it so adamantly unless there was something disturbing on it? What had my mild-mannered, church-going grandfather been hiding? At 9:30 p.m., with a beer in hand for liquid courage, I finally slid the tape into the VCR and pressed play. Static filled the screen for several seconds before clearing to reveal a living room, my living room. The camera panned shakily around the space, capturing the exact layout of my apartment, down to the framed poster above my couch and the crack in the ceiling that I'd been meaning to get fixed. I felt the blood drain from my face. This wasn't possible. Grandpa had never been to my apartment. I'd moved in just last year, long after his health had deteriorated too much for him to leave his house. The camera settled on the TV, the same one I was watching this footage on, before panning to my kitchen. The timestamp in the corner read 9:34 p.m., today's date. I checked my phone, 9:33 p.m. As the second hand on my watch ticked to 9:34, the camera on the screen moved exactly as I was seeing it in real time, as if someone were filming me at that very moment. But I was alone, and there was no camera. I paused the tape, hands shaking. This had to be some kind of elaborate prank. Maybe my roommate from college? He had a twisted sense of humor and knew where I lived. But how would he have planted the tape in Grandpa's basement? I pressed play again, determined to see what happened next. The footage continued, me setting down my beer, walking to the window to check if someone was outside filming, just as I had done seconds ago, then returning to sit on the couch. The timestamp read 9:36 p.m. Then the view changed. The camera panned to my front door just as someone knocked. 3 sharp raps that matched perfectly with the sound in my apartment. On the screen, I watched myself rise from the couch and approach the door. I looked through the peephole, then opened the door to reveal nothing. Just an empty hallway. But on the tape, there was someone there. A tall figure in a dark coat, face obscured by shadow. My on-screen self stepped back in surprise, mouth opening to speak. The figure lunged forward, something glinting in their hand. I watched myself fall backward, clutching my throat as dark liquid spilled between my fingers. The attacker stepped over my body into the apartment, turning to face the camera, revealing nothing but static where their face should be. The timestamp read 9:41 p.m. I checked my phone again, 9:39 p.m. 2 minutes. I had 2 minutes before whatever was on the tape would happen to me. I ejected the tape with trembling fingers, my mind racing. This couldn't be real. It was impossible. Yet the precision of the footage so far, the exact layout of my apartment, my movements, even the timestamp, made my skin crawl. A knock came at the door. 3 sharp raps, just like in the video. I froze, staring at the door. This was insanity. I was letting an old VHS tape drive me to paranoia. Yet my feet wouldn't move toward the door, and my throat felt dry as sandpaper. The knocking came again, more insistent. "Who is it?" I called out, my voice cracking. Silence. I grabbed my phone, ready to dial 911, and approached the door as quietly as possible. I leaned forward to look through the peephole. The hallway was empty. Relief washed over me, followed immediately by embarrassment. I'd worked myself into a panic over nothing. I turned back toward the living room, shaking my head at my own foolishness. The VCR clicked, and the tape slid out on its own. That wasn't possible. I'd already ejected it. I'd set it on the coffee table. Yet there it was, protruding from the machine as if inviting me to watch again. The tape on the table was gone. My phone buzzed in my hand. A text from an unknown number. "You can't escape what's already happened. Watch again." The knocking resumed, harder now, the door rattling in its frame. I backed away, torn between terror and disbelief. This couldn't be real. None of it was real. The door burst open. Standing in the doorway was my grandfather, exactly as he had looked 20 years ago, before age had stooped his shoulders and withered his frame. He wore the same dark coat as the figure in the video. "You shouldn't have watched it," he said, his voice both familiar and distant. "I warned you." "Grandpa?" I whispered. "You're dead. I buried you." "Time isn't a straight line," he replied, stepping into my apartment. "Some moments loop back on themselves. Some deaths echo." He reached into his coat, and I flinched, expecting a knife. Instead, he pulled out another VHS tape, identical to the first. "I've been trying to save you for decades," he said, his eyes sad. "But it always ends the same way." The tape in the VCR began to rewind on its own, the mechanical whirring filling the silence between us. What's happening? I asked, my back against the wall now. How is any of this possible? I found the tape when I was your age, he explained. In my grandfather's basement. I watched it, just like you. It showed me dying, just like you saw yourself dying. He gestured to the new tape in his hand. Then I made this one, trying to warn the next person. But it never works. The VCR clicked as the rewinding finished. So you're me? My head was spinning. In a way. He set the new tape on the coffee table. Your turn now. You'll try to warn the next one, just like I did. Just like all the others before us. I glanced at my phone, 9:41 p.m. The lights flickered. When they stabilized, my grandfather was gone. In his place stood a tall figure in a dark coat, face obscured by shadow, something glinting in their hand. Not a knife, but a VHS tape labeled "Do Not Watch." The figure lunged forward, and this time, I didn't try to run. After all, I'd already seen how this ends.